Okay, so hello everyone. I'm sat with Hilary Pascoe from Leonard Curtis. I get to be York for a minute, so I feel quite important sat in the chair seat. It's warm actually, York. So we're going to have a conversation a bit about some of the work that we do together, and we wanted to bring in some more about finances and care because it's not something that's discussed. It's a bit taboo.
Yeah.
It's not something that people get to know much about. I know you and I have worked on lots of different care services across the board, and it'd be really good to have a chat with you on kind of what you do if a provider, or if I bring you in and say, I've got this provider who's got an issue with their occupancy or with their cash, what sort of things would you do to kind of look at supporting them, and what things can Leonard Curtis do to help them?
I think firstly we'd probably just do a review of the business, try and understand how that business works. You need to understand how payments are made into the company. So, quite often with care homes, with local authorities, they can be paid in advance, they can be paid in arrears, and each local authority has a completely different payment terms, don't they? So I think it's really getting under the skin of the business and understanding how that business works. But there are, it's not always inevitably an insolvency, so we do try and avoid that. If the care provider's taken advice early doors, there's tools that we can use to try and help save that business and avoid the insolvency.
So when you said you do a review, what does that look like, and who pays for that, and how does that work?
Who pays for it? Usually it'll be the company that will pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a funder involved, the funder may provide some assistance, may extend facilities to allow payment of that review. Sometimes we will spend time with a business on a no fee basis, and for some initial consultation. If then that results in a piece of work being done, then obviously we would need to look for payment.
I have come across some providers that are quite scared of getting a review, or they think that a review means that the lender's going to get involved and things are going to escalate.
Yeah.
Is that the case, or?
No, not necessarily. I think most lenders want to be supportive, so I think it probably, I can understand why it would be a scary thing for someone to do, but ultimately that could be the piece of work that saves your business.
Mm-hmm.
So a care home that might have had cash flow difficulties, accrued a load of liabilities with HMRC, there's ways and means of dealing with the HMRC.
What would that look like?
So we have a team at Leonard Curtis that deal with time to pay arrangements.
Okay.
So they've got great contacts with HMRC. They know how HMRC will think and the parameters that they will agree those payment terms.
Okay.
So it may be that we look at cash flows. We prepare forecasts. We look at what that company is able to repay back. And then we have the discussion with the HMRC.
And HMRC will normally engage, will they? Or is there a limit as to what they will accept?
There's different parameters, and where there's a debt under 350,000,
350.
you tend to get a longer period for a time to pay. If it's above the 350, that's classed as a large debt, and then that becomes more difficult, but it's not impossible. So at Leonard Curtis we've just done a presentation recently, so I saw the stats last night, and we've got a 99% success rate of getting the time to pay agreements reached.
So that's really positive news for people that might be struggling with HMRC debt and they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, but we would be realistic with the client. If we don't think it's achievable, we would say it's not achievable. We're not going to take a piece of work on and waste somebody's money. We would be then looking at other options.
And we do the similar thing when we go into a service. If we won't offer to do something if we know that there's no possibility of the outcome, like challenging CQC inspection, for example,
exactly.
that is completely not going to happen. So then once you've done the review, how do things move forward from there? What sort of advice would you say you end up giving to the client, or what's your experience?
So we would look at the non-insolvency options. So generally it'll, maybe a time to pay if there's crown debt. It may be looking at, assisting with negotiating with creditors.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be bringing somebody like you in to go and do an operational
review.
review.
The operational side, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So with the homes that we've been working with recently, what sort of things would you say we've been put into place to assist with those kind of issues? Have you got any case studies or examples of how we've approached, or you separately with other companies have approached that?
At the moment, I've been working with a care home which is a non-insolvency, and we've been working with that care home for quite a number of years.
Okay.
The home has had difficulties. It's had embargoes, during COVID time, came out of COVID, all the infection control. There was lots of grants at the time, and that underpinned the business. Then the grants were obviously removed, occupancy dropped, and there's been a real challenge there. So we've worked with that company on and off with HMRC and its bank to deal with that. And ultimately, it's trying to avoid an insolvency, and we're looking at a sale scenario, but a solvent sale.
And so is that business moving in the right direction? Are we coming out the other side, or...?
If they sell it, then it will.
And is that normally the exit process, that it's to hold it while there's a sale that happens?
I mean, each set of circumstances is different.
Yeah.
So the owner of a care facility may be able to put money in and support that business, but where there isn't the option of that, or if it's a bigger group, if there's not the ability to put the investment in, then to try and achieve a solvent sale is probably the best outcome, if that is actually possible. Yeah.
And so what advice would you give to providers that are, maybe they think they're running a stable service, and they, haven't really thought of potentially any issues up and coming, or there could be with, national minimum wage lifting and other things like that. How do you recommend a provider manages or keeps an eye on their business? What sort of things do you come across that you'd advise?
I think it's looking at obviously making sure that you've got management information. I think that's the key to it.
We mentioned that a minute ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Very difficult.
It is, and where you've got a smaller home provider, usually they probably aren't preparing management information on a regular basis. They may be relying on their accountants to do the accounts, and then they really haven't got the foresight of how the business is actually performing. But there will be signs of stress. So, your occupancy is dropping, that inevitably impacts on your cash flow and your trading performance. Yeah. You may be starting to struggle to pay your creditors when they fall due. You may be missing payroll. You may be having to pay part pay as payroll and pay in a few weeks' time when the next tranche of money's come in from the local authorities. These are all sort of classic signs that you're going to see that a business is starting to get stressed.
There's a lot of really good points there that are things I didn't come up with earlier, and they're definitely things that we've been seeing recently, especially with part payments of payroll and staff being paid late, which is becoming more and more common in the jobs that we're getting. One of the problems we find is that we have a certain issue in trying to get people to listen to our advice and to take it forward. How do you manage with the advice that you're giving? What sort of techniques do you use to try and get these people to listen to you, or maybe implement some of your solutions, if you've got any?
I think it's a hard one, isn't it? Because these are people's businesses, so generally we're preparing a report, and when you see something in black and white, often that will have the impact that you need. And if there's then discussions with the funder or key stakeholders in the business, you do need to look at that and take that action that's required, really. And the earlier you get in, or the earlier that an owner of the business starts to seek advice, the better the outcome will be.
Yeah, we often find if we explain why, and we try and work out the reason that the person isn't listening to us, they might have a certain idea on a certain thing that they just won't shift on. We try and explain, if we carry on down this route, this will be the outcome, so this is why we're advising this. sometimes that works. And also different members of our team have different ways of saying things as well. So often if I have a conversation with a provider, I'll have a certain impact, but Charlie or Ben or somebody else might have a different way of saying something that sinks in. So we often try that too.
Yeah, I think in a lot of situations I've seen is when the embargo has gone in place and you're coming out the other side.
Yeah.
It's that real key of getting the occupancy level back up, and I think, you know, in our experience, that takes months, and quite often, if it's the first embargo that someone's experienced, they don't fully understand how long it can actually take to get the occupancy level back up.
And that's a really important point as well, because I think it's the misunderstanding part isn't just that they don't realise how long it's going to take to pick up, but they also don't realise how long it's going to take to lift the embargo.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times we'll be saying, right, you're going to need 6 months of cash flow now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't compute to them, and we're saying, you know, we can lift the embargo, we can help you do that, we can start filling the beds afterwards, but we need to plan for the gap in the middle, and that's where your advice comes in.
And exactly. I mean, we've dealt with a number of care homes, you know, together and between us, that, you know, our skill set is that generally we're going into a care home more often than not that has got an embargo, and we have to turn it around. You know, that we have to do that to be able to, you know, meet the objectives of an administration and things like that. So I think we have got the skill set, we've got the experience to be able to say, it will take this long. You know, to get yourself back on.
And
the
we've
right
done enough
footing.
work now to be able to predict those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much.
You're
It's
welcome.
been really, really helpful talking to you about some of the things that we can do to help providers plan ahead and think forward, rather than letting things slide and then, you know, have the issues afterwards. So we've got some more speakers coming up in a minute, so we're going to take a break and we're going to switch again. But thank you for coming, Hilary. I know you're speaking later. I'm looking forward to hearing that as well. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch up with you shortly.
Thank you.